All right, Sean and Barney here again today, talking about
Good morning.
end of days.
Yeah.
End of day topic. I thought it'd be good because it was actually your idea. Uh, because I was home, I was gone, and while I was home back in Minnesota, my wife asked me if we should stay in Minnesota because we're on the farm where there's plenty of meat because we, the U.S. sent a bunch of bombs over to Iran, and all of a sudden it was like World War
Yeah.
III starting, and she was like, she was actually scared. She's like, and like when I'm my
Yeah.
first, I was like, yeah, I want to stay at the farm if that happens, but
I'm not going to go there and wait for 20 years if it doesn't happen.
right?
Because the good news is we just don't know.
Yeah.
But it's very fearful. It's a very exciting but a very fearful time at the same, all at the same time.
Talk about the exciting piece of it.
Well, the exciting piece of it is that from the beginning of written language that we have in the Sumerian language, which was 3,000 or so BC, which is really back even before the Israelites in the desert,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. It precedes that, the civilizations do. It's really fascinating. And the Sumerian and the Assyrian civilization, Sumerian was the original one. And even in that culture and that civilization, there's one word that we know that goes back before any other words we have written down about anything in the whole world. And it's called Shakba na Imuru. Sounds kind of like Star Wars,
Oh, it does.
Star Trek,
Totally.
Imuru, but it's a real Sumerian word, and it means one who sees into the abyss. That's the meaning of that phrase. And since the beginning of time, people have always wanted to see into the future. And they're called seers. The Bible even calls them seers in the Old Testament, especially. And they're people that have this capacity or this ability or this to see into the future and to predict what's going to happen. So yeah, it's exciting in that way because I think we all want to know where this thing's headed because we're actually on the train right now, and the train's gonna not going to last forever. And but it's also fearful because people are, they're going to work, they're taking care of their kids, they're buying stuff from Amazon, and they're getting ready for Christmas. And the next thing you know, we hear this discussion that maybe there'll be this nuclear holocaust that will be like Armageddon. It'll just destroy the earth. And we're like, wait a minute, I got to get my kids to swimming. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Now I got to think about that. And there's certain people that are really prone to fear. In fact, in the Bible, if you look, it's really interesting. The most often repeated commandment, you know what it is?
Do not fear.
Do not fear. You got it. Way to go, man. And it's God's just trying to say, hey, dudes, calmate. You gotta calm down. Because this stuff is predicted, and Jesus even talked about it, but it wasn't talked about in a super specific way. But there's a lot of guys today that teach it that way. They teach that this is that country, that leader, and this is the Antichrist. And yeah, it's there.
Okay, so it's exciting and fearful for those. I was thinking when you said exciting at first, I was thinking rapture. Like it's exciting
Yeah.
for those
Yeah.
who believe and are chosen.
Yeah. And that could be, but it may not be too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
I sometimes see it, Sean, as we all want the rapture to occur, which means we get sucked up, beam me up to Jesus before it all happens, and then we don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like one guy's in a plane, he's a believer, and he's sucked. All of a sudden, he's gone, and the other guy that's not a believer is left there.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great storytelling. I'm not sure that it pans out that way. So the millennialists and the premillennialists, the post-millennial, the rapture, and all this stuff that's there that people create these theologies from. Because I studied it with the top minds in the world, and I just told one of the guys, I said, everybody was saying what they were, premillennial, post-millennial, and I just said, well, I think I'm pan-millennial. And they go, what does that mean? And I go, it's all going to pan out in the end.
Okay.
And these brilliant, theologians are looking at me like, how'd you get in here?
Fascinating. Well, if you think about it too, it's like even the prophecies going back and how they all point to Jesus, and then you have other prophecies that talk, like people back in the day talking about the world wars that they happened and whatever. And are those accurate when they when you
They link up the past prophetic stuff to
yeah
today.
to today?
No, I would say they could be coincidentally accurate. That looking at Iran or Russia as Gog and Magog in Ezekiel 38,
Okay.
that really was a present historical reality that we know about
Yeah.
today. The rebuilding of the temple in the 5th century, 6th century BC. Cyrus let the Jews that were, diaspora, that were spread out, let them come back to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. That's the very present fulfillment of that.
Okay.
And then the other fulfillment of it is when Jesus came, because Jesus was referred to as the temple of God. Our bodies are now the temple of God. So there's a present, but you can link it to future. So the first coming of Jesus was really, it tells us very clearly, he was the fulfillment of all the Old Testament prophecies. It was all fulfilled in him.
Mm-hmm.
Every prophecy was fulfilled in his first coming, but it's pretty interesting to think about that still having something to do with the future fulfillment of those prophecies and links from Ezekiel 38 to 23rd, 24th, 25th century, whenever it occurs. It's very interesting. And the human mind, especially theologically, it loves to chew on the mysteries of God, much like a dog likes to chew on a bone.
How's that?
Well, the mind loves to do that. It just chews on this stuff. It's so interesting. And I've got guys that taught me that had PhDs in super and infralapsarianism. I mean,
what is that?
Yeah, no, that's my point. It's like, but he loved to talk about that.
Okay.
And so I had a whole class with him. I think I walked out dumber than when I went in. But it's a legitimate field of theological study that if you really study it, and I did, it's tremendous mind stuff, but I don't know how much it really fits. And Jesus didn't say unless you become scholars, he said unless you become children.
True.
So we got to be careful.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Point us back to being children. Well, with I mean, great topic. I'm glad you brought it up because it's something, so I want to get to, kind of the revelations with John, and then also
the apocalypse, which means revelation, by the way. It's technically the apocalypse of John.
Mm-hmm.
And apocalypse means revelation, that he's getting things revealed to him about sea monsters and the throne of God and the 17-eyed beasts that are surrounding him and the sparkling babies falling out of the stars. This is really cool stuff. Sometimes when I read it, I think, oh, this guy must have been on ayahuasca. I don't think he was, but it sounds like that.
Yeah, no. And well, and it's, just from, going back to do not fear. Like, don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't let this bog you down, so you still need to live out your day to day and let it play out as if this isn't happening in our lifetime.
Yeah. There's a tension there. And you have to understand too what Jesus said about it. Jesus said that nobody knows the hour of the day, and not even I know. It's going to come like a thief in the night. So you better be ready today. Yeah. It may not happen in your lifetime.
Yeah.
You may die beforehand, but the thing that's interesting about the signs of Jesus, because I've studied those, the hatred, that families will hate on each other. There'll be famines and there'll be earthquakes and deceivers, and, people will, let go of the truth and, all that stuff that's there. There's a whole list of them, which is too bad, because if we had 17 weeks, we could study all that. That would be a really interesting study. If people that were interested wanted to go and sit in a room and talk about it. But I don't know anywhere you can do that, but anyway, he did say these things, the earthquakes and the famines and all this hatred and deception has been going on since the beginning. He said they're like birth pangs. Mm-hmm. And so what it means is that as time as we know it, time as it evolves and it in a linear fashion, in a chronological way, these things blossom. There's like the evil starts to blossom, and there's more hatred, there's more earthquakes, there's more famines and rumors of war and all the stuff that's there. So you see, a part of what he was saying was that in the end times, when this thing's about ready to pop, you'll see a magnitude of this stuff happening that's never happened before. Like nuclear war, that's never been possible.
Yeah.
So it's a magnitude, a volume, a huge there's a velocity. It's happening really, really fast. And there is a magnitude, there's also an amplitude. In other words, it's louder and it's in our face more than ever because of the internet and
Yeah.
the modern world.
Yeah.
So the magnitude gets bigger, the amplitude gets louder, and the velocity gets faster, the acceleration of it. And we're definitely in that time right now. I mean, we could
Yeah.
this thing could pop tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't live like it's going to pop tomorrow.
Yeah.
I live my life today. I mean, I got to still be married to my wife of 50 years, even though I'm still on probation, and I've got to I cooked for my grandkids last night. At their new house.
Oh yeah.
I got to do that still. I got to make pancakes and
Yeah.
bacon. And really, to be honest with you, it gives me a good distraction from all the fearful noise. There's a lot of noise in the world.
Yeah.
A lot of noise, and to be able to say, well, I'm going to listen to this voice or that voice, it's good. But we have to live with some uncertainty about the future.
That's walking in faith, is it not?
It is.
Yeah.
It is exactly what it is, and it's a skill. Walking in faith, not being afraid, is a skill you learn.
Yeah.
It's a habit. Remember we talked about atomic habits.
Yeah.
And how you fissure. You cut that atom in half, and it just gets smallest little element on Earth, but it just gets so big, it just has this huge effect. Well, the atomic habit for us as Christians is faith. We take it in the smallest mustard seed level, and we just have to split it and let there be a reaction, and then watch that keep going, so that it gets easier. I'm 72. It's so easy compared to today, when I was a kid, to walk without fear.
Yeah.
Because I'm really, I've developed it and matured in that ability to not. I go to bed at night, I don't worry about that stuff.
That's okay. You said it's easier for you now than when you were a kid.
Well, it's because I've been working out like an athlete, and I
Yeah.
have developed that skill.
Okay. So, comparatively speaking, you as a kid versus my sons as a kid is probably gonna be a little bit different with the amount of noise and the amplitude that you were just talking about, right?
Oh, it's there's not a lot of room for error.
Yeah.
These kids could go off today and never come back.
Yeah.
I mean, they're getting faced with stuff on the internet and their
Yeah.
friends and their preps and everything, that these children that are children, and they're being, influenced by influencers.
Oh yeah.
Some of those kids will not get back.
Okay. So I mean, that's just something to really, like, it goes back to, like you said, you train like an athlete, like talking like Paul there. I love that.
Yeah.
Because it's, you have to do it daily. You got to do it multiple times a day. And I think now the more noisy it gets, like, the more you have to do it.
Yeah.
And I try to practice, like, I do not watch the news. I try not to watch news. Of course, I know what's going on in the world, but that's not.
Yeah.
I don't need to sit there and watch
No.
doomsday stuff. They make it out to where it's going to be so bad.
Don't get focused on it,
Yeah.
especially at your age. I can
Yeah.
go home and watch News Nation and Fox and CNN and MSNBC all day long if I want.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't and I can't, but I'm retired, But the truth is that not only have I developed the skill of walking in faith, not by sight, I have actually experienced it. So that's the thing, is the experience of it.
Yeah.
Where if you walk on the Broadway, the path of destruction, and you walk through that gate, Jesus calls it, it's wide, it's broad, and there's a narrow gate.
Yeah.
Today, if you walk on that wide gate, that narrow gate, it's destruction.
On the wide gate.
Yeah, the wide gate's destruction.
Yeah.
And the narrow gate, people say, why are you walking? Why are you so narrow and minded?
Yeah.
Well, Jesus said, if I walk on the other the Broadway, it's a path of destruction. But you can't tell people that. They have to experience it. They have to experience the destruction that comes from walking on the Broadway. And some people will learn from their pain, and others won't. I just keep walking.
That's deep right there. Because I think, I have a neighbor that, last year or so, he's been on that broad road. Going through the broad gate, and his, marriage blew up, and, kids are wondering what's going on, and it's sad. And it's like, I tried to get him to the Anchorman groups, try to get him to church, and now he's going. like he's hit rock bottom. now he's there. He's going to church. He moved away. It's in the south side of town, not
Yeah.
close to us.
Well,
But he's, group. He's got a men's group. He's got a church. So hopefully he sees it. Hopefully it's true, right? Anyways.
yeah. Well, he's made that
Yeah.
transition. That's a big deal.
Yeah. Okay.
But look what it took. You lose your family, you lose your
Yeah.
kids,
Yeah.
and you just don't ever recover from that fully.
Yeah.
I mean, you might get another wife and create another family, but I can't. I never lost my family, and I think it's the most important thing in my life.
Well, that's I think your broad road happened before you were married. So,
It
right?
did. It did.
That's before you found Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I had buddies that were. I went to baseball practice one morning when I was 13 years old,
Yeah.
and one of my best buddies, Lynn, we surfed together and did drugs together back then. I said, "Well, he's my catcher. Where's my catcher, Lynn?" And the coach said, "Well, hate to tell you this, but he's dead. He overdosed on heroin."
What?
13 years old. I started seeing it where it led then.
13 years old?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, I was in that Compton Paramount area, so
Yeah.
there was really a broad way. But I started getting the hint then that something's really, really wrong with this world we live in.
Yeah. All right. So let's bring it back to. I mean, I like where this went as far as you brought in, the broad gate versus the narrow gate.
Yeah.
And then also going back to, every day it's a practice. You train like an athlete, because the end of times, nobody knows when it's coming. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep helping what you're doing. Keep building on what you want to build on. Anyways, anything you want to say to close out this session as far as wrapping it all up together?
Well, it's just impossible to summarize 10,000 years of human civilization and spiritual, church, Jesus, all that good stuff in a half an hour. But I think the thing is that I think what it is it's challenging Christians, and mostly Christians right now, to find out for themselves, to get back in the Word, to really watch their step. A lot of them have really lost their first love. Jesus says this. The angel said to that one church, "Said I have this against you. You've lost your first love. No fire there anymore. You're neither hot nor cold. You're just lukewarm. I'm ready to puke you out of my mouth." Well, you want to pay attention to that, and hopefully people are waking up. The whole point of it all is let's get people awake so that when this stuff happens, they can clearly discern it and be ready for it.
Yeah.
Because if you're not awake and you're sleeping through your job and sleeping through your day and your family business, and you're unconscious of what the real world is that's happening out there in terms of spiritual meaning, you're in a lot of trouble, and you're gonna really miss the boat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Heavy subject, buddy.
Yeah, it is. Well, yeah, like you said, we need 13 weeks to unpack all of this, but this is a good surface level. If people like it, we can dive deeper.
Yeah, and like you say, the extended. I wish churches did more of it, where they had Wednesday night sessions when the people could talk and ask questions, because that's really how you learn.
Yeah,
that's really how your faith gets built up. Your faith doesn't get built up listening to some guy that's got Jesus juice and swag, and he's just really cool, and hey, this is you don't get built up very much by listening 30 minutes of that.
Okay.
You get built up and you get your nose in it yourself. You don't need his nose in it. Get your nose in it.
Hey, good lesson. Get your nose in it.
Yeah.
Get into it. Okay.
All right.
Awesome, Barney.
Thanks for
coming. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. See you next time.